The 1990s was a defining decade for video games, when arcades still had a pulse but home consoles were fast becoming the heart of gaming culture. The decade saw the introduction of some of the most iconic systems in the history of gaming, including the Sega Mega Drive, Super Nintendo, Game Boy and Neo Geo, followed by the hugely successful PlayStation and Nintendo 64 later in the decade. It truly was an incredible time to be a gamer, the era of cheat codes, game magazines, demo discs, blowing on cartridges to make them work, and dodgy third-party controllers that never quite worked right. And while video games were exploding in popularity, British television was still trying to figure out how to cover this dynamic and rapidly expanding industry. Enter GamesMaster. Airing on Channel 4, GamesMaster was the UK's first TV show dedicated to video games. A wild mix of game reviews, features, tips, tournaments, challenges, and surreal humor, all set against a constantly evolving backdrop of elaborate story-driven locations. Hosted by the inimitable Dominic Diamond with astronomer Sir Patrick Moore as the GamesMaster, it wasn't just a show about video games. It was loud, chaotic, rule-breaking television that captured the anarchic energy of the decade perfectly. It was shows like this that introduced me to video games, and to this day I still find comfort in revisiting those old classics, fueled by the excitement and wonder this show gave me as a kid. In this episode of the 90s Rewind, we're taking a look back at the debut episode of GamesMaster from January of 1992, exploring first the show's origins and then how that very first episode set the tone for one of the most unique and beloved shows of the decade. Before we jump in, a huge welcome to all of the new subscribers to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. The original idea for GamesMaster was developed in the early 90s by television producer Jane Hewland, who at the time had just launched her own production company, Hewland International. In 1990, her son, who was 10 at the time, had asked for a Nintendo for Christmas, and the system came with the light gun shooter game Duck Hunt. She recalls that the first time she watched him play the game, she felt herself getting excited watching the TV, and suddenly had the idea for a TV show of people competing at video games. When the idea was first presented to commissioning editors, they didn't quite understand it, and it wasn't until Jane put together a video package of interviews with her son and his friends talking about why they loved video games that the editors at Channel 4 could see the potential of a video game related television show. And with that, the series was greenlit for a 10-episode series, albeit with a very strict budget of only £10,000 per episode. Jane brought on Cameron McAllister and Adam Wood to direct and produce the show, and gave them a very simple brief. The show was to be 30 minutes long, contain game challenges, reviews, and playing tips, and include a half-human, half-electronic host, the GamesMaster, from whom the show would take its name. This role of the GamesMaster would be given to astronomer Sir Patrick Moore, an unusual choice, but it somehow worked. When it came to finding a presenter for this new show, Jane once again used her son as the litmus test, showing him audition tapes of various prospects, and her son fell about laughing at Dominic Diamond, making him the top pick for the job. In 1991, Dominic was, in his own words, in the pits of despair. He had left university with a drama degree and was trying to become a stand-up comedian, but was instead working as a temp in Milton Keynes. He had auditioned for the Channel 4 variety show The Word, which started in 1990, but failed to get the role, and was then approached about auditioning for GamesMaster. In his audition, he made a joke about waggling joysticks, the joke that had Jane's son in hysterics, and with that, Dominic was offered the job. In terms of the show's format, each episode of GamesMaster featured a variety of segments, with the main focus being the challenges where players would compete either individually or head-to-head to complete a challenge set by the GamesMaster. These challenges were things like completing levels as quickly as possible, achieving certain high scores in a set amount of time, or beating a particularly difficult boss. The great thing was that every week featured different games, and the challenges were always varied, making every episode unique, and contestants who were successful in their challenge would be awarded the GamesMaster Golden Joystick. Oh, how we all wanted to get our hands on one of those. Each episode also featured a number of game reviews, tips and tricks for beating games, and various celebrities made appearances on the show over the years. In essence, it's a simple format, and the first series proved to be so successful that the show was almost immediately commissioned for a much longer series 2, and the rest is history. One of my favorite things about the show was the set design. Every series was set in a different location, and there was even a running narrative throughout the show's run explaining the changes in location between each series. For example, at the end of Series 2, which was set on an oil rig, there was an explosion, leading to the rig having to be evacuated. Series 3 actually had a different host, Dexter Fletcher, as Dominic had left the show to pursue other opportunities, as well as him disagreeing with the appointment of McDonald's as the show's sponsor. Dominic did return, however, hosting the show from Series 4 until the end. Back to the sets, Series 1 was set in a church, Series 2 in the aforementioned oil rig, Series 3 in a prison, Series 4 and 5 in Hell and Heaven respectively, Series 6 in Atlantis, and the final 7th series on a desert island. This was such a great idea to have the show changed to a completely different location for each series. It really freshened things up and made each series feel very unique. There is so much more detail that we could go into regarding GamesMaster, and I'll definitely be making a full retrospective of this show in the future. But for now, as this is the 90s rewind, we're going all the way back to January of 1992 to relive the very first episode of GamesMaster. It was 6:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, January 7th, 1992, when the debut episode of GamesMaster was broadcast. We get this pretty cool CGI intro before joining Dominic in the studio, which for this first series is in a church, filmed at St Paul's Church on Dock Street in London.
Thank you very much and welcome to GamesMaster, television's first ever video game magazine show.
Dominic tells us that each week we'll be reviewing new games, learning some exclusive tips and cheats, and casting our eyes over the latest hardware and software developments. But the biggest portion of the show will be dedicated to the 3 special game-playing challenges. We then go straight to the GamesMaster, who introduces the first challenge on Super Mario Bros. 3.
So, you'd like to pit your skills against one of my little challenges. Commendable pluck indeed.
The assignment for this challenge is to collect 50 coins within 2 minutes on the game's first level. Doesn't seem too difficult, does it? Well, just wait till you see what our challenger, Daniel from Edgeware, does. Daniel enters the studio to rapturous applause and tells us he's a little nervous but confident as he takes his seat ready to take on the challenge. Dominic is then joined on commentary for the game by Julian Rignall, who launched the game magazine Mean Machines in 1990. It's safe to say that Daniel isn't rushing himself here, and it's frustrating watching to say the least as he nervously makes his way through the level.
Now, where's this leaf going to be then?
On the right, if you can...
Oh my word, there's the leaf, just as we spoke about it.
Daniel then collects a 1-up and gets slaughtered on commentary by Julian.
I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, what's this little thing? A 1-up, is that going to do him any good?
Nothing at all, completely pointless waste of time.
Daniel misses the pipe at the top where he can enter a secret zone full of coins, but is eventually able to get in there, collect the rest of the coins he needs, and finish the challenge with 12 seconds to spare. For his efforts, Daniel wins the very first GamesMaster Golden Joystick. An easy challenge really, but a great game to start off with. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Dominic throughout GamesMaster's entire run slipped in quite a few knob jokes over the years.
If you take that back to Edgeware with you and you can put it in your hand and walk proud and erect through the high street. Thank you very much, Daniel Blake.
Next up are the game reviews, which are linked by a theme each week. In this first episode, the theme is movies. First is the Terminator on the Mega Drive, which is actually a really great game, although one reviewer thinks it looks good enough to pose with.
There's a lot of digitalized screenshots which are very impressive, and if you had any friends around you could pose with it.
Maybe I've misheard that. Anyway, it's a great game and definitely check it out if you've never played it before. Next is the Addams Family platformer, which gets criticized for just being another platformer, with the reviewers saying that more could have been done with the license. The game is given a 63% overall rating. Finally, we have the point-and-click adventure game Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, which is another excellent game that received great reviews upon its release, and our reviewers on GamesMaster highly recommend it, giving it an overall score of 93%. We then get a quick feature segment talking about customized Game Boys, some of which look quite cool, and we get this rather peculiar lady who just loves scribbling on her Game Boy.
A Game Boy comes into this world naked, and it's just begging to be designed.
Next up is the Celebrity Challenge, a game of football on the game Manchester United Europe, pitting gamer Simon from Bishop Stortford against Wimbledon and England striker John Fashanu. Simon and John make their entrance, and after a quick interview with both, Dominic heads to the commentary booth where he's now joined by Tom Watson from Renegade Software. Tom says this game is all about passing and controlling the ball, and he's not lying as the controls on this game are quite tricky. Both players hit the post in an exciting first half before we head to the commercial break, and when we return, Simon is able to get the opening goal. Immediately following this, Fash makes an incredible run and gets his player through on goal, but somehow hits the bar.
And there's a player on there, can he make it in?
How he missed that, I will never know. Simon then gets a second goal and is able to see out the rest of the match to emerge the winner by 2-0. Simon goes home happy with the second GamesMaster Golden Joystick. Next up on the show is the Consultation Zone. Consultation, see what they did there? This is the part of the show where gamers can ask the GamesMaster for tips and advice on their favorite games. In this episode, we learn about how to get to the secret area on Act 3 of the Green Hill Zone in Sonic the Hedgehog, how to find the four-leafed clover in Elvira, and how to get past Deborah Cliff in Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. This was always a great part of the show, and I remember watching this when I was young, thinking it would have been really cool to go on the show and ask the GamesMaster a question. Did you have a question that you would have wanted to ask the GamesMaster? Let me know down in the comments below. Back to the studio for our last challenge of the episode on the game Mad Dog McCree, which was the first live-action Laserdisc video game. The challenge is to rid the town of outlaws and deliver the town sheriff to freedom, and our challenger is Tony Wright from North Wales.
Now, Tony, I look at you and the word mature springs to mind.
Tony takes his place in front of the monitor, and Dominic's co-commentator for this game is the editor of Computer and Video Games magazine, Tim Boone.
Howdy, stranger. We need your help. Mad Dog McCree's gang is taking over the town.
The aim of the game is simple really, just shoot the outlaws when they appear on the screen to progress through the story. Tony shoots the first few outside before heading into the saloon where he's able to demonstrate his skills with a light gun. After this, Tony frees the sheriff, emerges victorious, and is awarded his golden joystick, meaning all three challengers in this debut episode were successful in their challenges. A quick word from Dominic closes the show, and with that, the very first episode of GamesMaster comes to an end. In the years that followed, GamesMaster went on to broadcast 126 episodes over 7 series, and is fondly remembered as one of the best TV shows of the 90s. Channel 4 did produce a short 3-episode online revival in 2021, hosted by Robert Florence, Frankie Ward, and Ty Logan that was actually quite good, but no further episodes have been made as of the recording of this video, which is a real shame as I think many fans would absolutely love to see this show return. What made GamesMaster so special wasn't just the games, it was the way it perfectly captured the spirit of the era. It was loud, cheeky, and totally unfiltered, and had this rebellious energy that made it feel like it belonged more in the playground than in the living room. The show was always unpredictable and entertaining, and of course Sir Patrick Moore as the GamesMaster himself brought this kind of surreal, otherworldly presence to it all, something that was totally unique and hasn't really been replicated since. Sky One show Gamesville in the 2000s tried to emulate this in a way with the Guru, but I think the less said about that, the better. For many, watching GamesMaster each week was a ritual. It gave gamers a place on mainstream TV when there was nothing else like it, and I think that balance between being fun but chaotic in equal measure and never taking itself too seriously is probably why it's remembered with so much love today. Even decades later, the show is still very watchable, particularly for fans of retro video games. So whether you grew up watching it religiously every week, or you're just discovering it now for the first time, I highly recommend going back and watching a few episodes. Few shows captured the spirit of the 90s quite like GamesMaster, and it will forever be remembered as a true classic that left its mark on an entire generation of gamers. Many thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this look back at the debut episode of GamesMaster. I do plan on creating a full retrospective looking back at the show's entire run, but for the 90s rewind, I thought it would be fun to look back at its debut episode. What are your memories of the show? I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Please don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.